Thank you very much for joining us here today at the Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force. We are here in Sacramento at the headquarters of the California Natural Resources Agency, and I would estimate joined by over 100 people on site. We're also glad to be joined by almost 500 people online. So we very much appreciate this high level of engagement, and to us, it demonstrates that the conversations happening at this task force are really meaningful across the state. My name is Wade Crowfoot, and I lead our California Natural Resources Agency, and I co-chair this governor's task force along with my colleague Jennifer Eberlein, who of course leads the U.S. Forest Service work in Region 5 and here in California. This will be a really important meeting here today, and I'm excited with the scientific experts that we have joining us. As always, we'll start off with some high-level remarks to set context on the conversation today. We'll invite any remarks or announcements from our executive committee, and then we will jump into it. So let me start out by saying our hearts are with those people and those communities impacted by the Franklin Fire that's been burning in Malibu, and our sincere gratitude to the first responders from CAL FIRE and the Forest Service and local fire response agencies that are working to keep people safe. It is now December, and of course, and to have a fire of this severity is a pretty grave reminder that our fire season has turned into the fire year. And we now face wildfire conditions across the state that really never relent through 12 months of the year. At the same time, I think we can express a lot of gratitude to so many over the last few years for the work that has been put into strengthening wildfire response, but also proactive wildfire resilience. I remember well the summers of 2020 and 2021. Both in this job, but also as a parent, when my daughter, who was about 6 or 7 at the time, couldn't be outside for extended periods of time because of toxic smoke. And I observed that over the last 3 summers, while there have been wildfires and while we experienced dangerous large wildfires this past summer, including the Park Fire, there have been improved conditions across the state. And of course, a lot of that has to do with Mother Nature, which none of us control. But I also firmly believe that the strengthened response, again, at CAL FIRE and U.S. Forest Service and local wildfire response agencies, has made a difference. We have more planes and helicopters, personnel, and technology responding to wildfires than we ever have before. And it's making a difference. Likewise, and most central to the work of this task force, we have put in place over 2,000 wildfire resilience projects, either completed or underway across the state, thanks to you, those of you who are joining today, and so many others. And as our partners at CAL FIRE have identified, those projects are working. I'm so gratified on the updated CAL FIRE website, fire.ca.gov. There's a tab called Prevent, where you can learn about how these wildfire resilience projects are specifically impacting wildfires that have occurred in California and how they're helping our first responders combat those wildfires. So we're making remarkable progress. This coming year, 2025, is a big year. As we, in the Newsom administration, look to our last 2 years, we look to this coming year to update our wildfire action plan, which is specifically our shared roadmap with our federal government and local government and tribal government partners around what we're going to continue to do on wildfire resilience. So we hope that you are involved in helping us update what has been the action plan into the new and strengthened action plan. This meeting is all about informing our work from here. We have asked our science advisory committee, our scientific experts, independent of our agencies, to come here today and to tell us what's working, what may not be working, and what else we should be doing from a scientific perspective. So I think all of us are really looking forward to the discussion and learning here today. And with that, I'll lastly say, we benefit from a remarkable executive committee on our task force. Again, chaired by our federal and state agencies, but including tribal representatives, local government, and of course, agencies across the state and federal government. I want to thank two local leaders who are cycling off due to their terms. Supervisor Doug Teeter. Where's Doug? Thank you so much for being here as a representative of rural counties and all the work you're doing in Butte County. You've been a candid, often funny member of the executive committee through so many of these task force meetings, and I'm really appreciative to the work you're doing. We're excited to continue to have the rural counties represented, and it'll be represented through another county supervisor. I also want to thank Ed Valenzuela in absentia. Ed is a supervisor from Siskiyou County who is today chairing the Sierra Nevada Conservancy Board meeting up in Auburn, and he has been representing the California State Association of Counties, which will continue to be represented here on the task force. And we're also excited to welcome a new member, but I'll turn it over to my co-chair, Jennifer, for that.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Wade, and welcome all to our December task force meeting. Really looking forward to this. As Wade had said, what a great opportunity to get updated and get some thoughts around our science that's supporting and informing and basing all of our work that we're doing on this task force. And it's such a great follow-up from the October field meeting, where we're really in that October meeting, we were able to really see how many communities are working and involved and benefiting from all the work that we're doing collectively together. So really looking forward to this. You know, it's December. It's the end of the year. I was told I shouldn't sing, but it's the holiday season. So for me, this is just a great time for reflecting on what's been accomplished and what we've done. And I'll just share my top one is just partnerships. And this is all of you. This is all of us, because we're not able to do some of the great work that Wade was just lining out that's happening in the state without everybody there and everybody having some skin in the game and being a part of it. Wildfire crisis strategy for the Forest Service continues to be a top priority for us. And I'm really happy and excited to say we're still investing in our wildfire crisis strategy. We have another 15 million that is going to the Tahoe, the El Dorado, and the Sequoia. And through the bipartisan infrastructure law, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act, we've invested over $760 million that's coming into California. So I'm very excited about that. Our hazardous fuels, we've got a joint goal of 1 million acres. And this past year for the Forest Service was just a banner year, as Wade was saying, for getting some fuels reduction projects. Definitely had a high on prescribed fire, but also managed fire, mechanical treatment, and grazing. That's been a part of that fuels reduction work as well. And we're at about 330,000 acres for the Forest Service contributing to that joint goal that we have. So really looking forward to that and continuing our work in 2025. Still working on our post-fire recovery and reforestation efforts, and you'll hear a little bit about that. And then I'm just looking forward to 2025. There's so many opportunities that we can continue to work together. As Wade and you'll hear, we do so many cross-boundary, cross-administration projects that with our mapping tool that we have, with our monitoring tools that we have, we're really going to be able to see where do we all collectively leverage our resources, our authorities to the best that we can do and make those changes on the ground. So very much looking forward to it. See you in 2025 after this one, and we're making progress. So onward. And then, as Wade had said, we've got a new member to our executive committee, and I'd like to introduce Joe Stout to our new board here, our newest board member, and I'll let Joe introduce himself.
All right, thanks, Jen, and thanks, Wade. Really appreciate this opportunity to join the executive committee and look forward to continuing to grow BLM's engagement on the task force and all the great work coming this year, working together with everyone. So it's also great to be on the committee with my fellow boss. So, so I'm looking forward to working with Jen again. I started in this role with BLM as a state director in August of this year. And previously I was on the El Dorado National Forest as the forest supervisor. So it's great to see some Forest Service friends in the room as well. Before that, have over 25 years with the federal government, a lot of it with the Bureau of Land Management from DC, Colorado, and California. So BLM has been involved with this task force in some form since back in 2016 when the task force was stood up for the tree mortality issues we had throughout the state, and since then have been an active partner. But the timing is great, like Wade was sharing with the 2025 action plan, kind of where we're going. We've seen the scaling up of work across the state, as Jen mentioned as well, with the help of many of you in this room. This last year, BLM was able to treat over 50,000 acres across the state, which was a big bump for us. A lot of that from Bill Ira and other funds that we were able to secure. And so we're looking to continue to increase our engagement there, and with the help of all of you. And BLM lands have a unique role in California. We have over 3 million BLM public lands acres that we manage within that 1 mile kind of radius of major, urban centers. And so it's really critical for our rural communities that we're doing all we can out there to, help create wildfire resilient public lands. And so our goal being, again, engaged with this task force is really to try and to get engaged more on some of the task groups. I know we have a number of them that this task force has that BLM's going to be taking a more active role in, and just looking to continue to kind of grow our role in this wildfire crisis landscape here in the state. So again, thanks Wade, thanks Jen. We look forward to working with y'all.
Yeah, big thanks, Joe, and appreciate your interest and commitment to serving on the executive committee. It means a lot. A lot of Californians don't know that almost half of our 100 million acres is owned and managed by the federal government, including so many areas of the state that are wildfire vulnerable. So the state, local, federal, tribal partnerships have never been more important. I also want to introduce here for the first time our Chief Deputy Director at CAL FIRE, Annalee Burlew. We are very thankful to have Annalee helping Chief Tyler lead our CAL FIRE. I like to brag on CAL FIRE as what I consider one of the most sophisticated wildland firefighting forces on planet Earth that is getting stronger by the year. And Annalee, huge thanks to the work that you're doing on the response front, but also on the wildfire resilience front. So I wonder if you'd introduce yourself and also just give us a bit of a recap on this year from CAL FIRE's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Secretary. I am honored to be here. Big shoes to fill, being here behind Chief Tyler. Chief Tyler is actually down at our Ventura Training Center today, a celebration of the graduation of the folks out of that training center. So really happy that he could be there today to honor all of them. So a little bit about myself. I have worked for CAL FIRE for the last 24 years. I started as a seasonal firefighter in Yuba County in 2000 and have worked my way up through the ranks of the department. And then just over a year ago, I was appointed by the administration as the chief deputy into this position. And it has been an amazing experience. And people ask me all the time, how do you like your job? How do you like your job? And truly, I love my job. I love working for this department. I have been honored to work for CAL FIRE for the last 24 years. And it's amazing having a job that you truly believe in the work that you are doing. And you get to go out and work with amazing people and carry on just such incredibly important work. And I just feel so blessed every day to get to do that, to get to work for an administration that truly believes in the work that we are doing. And it is a lot of fun to see all of the energy in recent years around the health of our forests, around fire suppression, around truly changing the culture in our state to recognize the wildfire crisis that we have, and not only our state and our country, but around the world, and just the partnerships that are being developed in this state, or excuse me, in this space is truly motivating to see that happening. We actually, Daniel Berlant, our fire marshal, our state fire marshal, and also folks from Cooperative Fire, and Helen Lopez as our Tribal Affairs Deputy Director was just in Chile this week, working on the memorandum of understanding that we have with Chile, or are working on re-upping with Chile, to talk about the similarities in their fires and our wildfires here in California, and how we can work together both on the prevention side and the suppression side, and information sharing to be stronger together. And I think that that's what we are seeing, as we truly are stronger together in this space. But enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about the fire year. So I have to say, when I was starting to think about what I was going to say about the fire year on Monday, and I knew that we were in a Santa Ana wind event, and there were red flag warnings across the state and public safety power shutoffs looming, I was truly hoping that I would not be reporting that today we have an incident management team actively assigned to the Franklin Fire in Los Angeles County. Obviously, late Monday night, that fire broke out. And that has consumed, as of this morning, 4,037 acres and is 30% contained. And as many of you know, this time of year with those Santa Ana wind events, those are fast-moving fires across the landscape. And right now, Southern California, especially that coastal part of the South, has not received much rain. And so it was very vulnerable with those low humidities and fast winds to be receptive to a wildfire. And that's what happened Monday night. Now, I will say 4,000 acres, right? I'm super thankful that that fire was able to be contained at only 4,000 acres. And much of that I want to attribute to the commitment of the administration in the suppression resources that we have available. And so this year in July, the administration, the legislature voted to actually extend the CAL FIRE peak staffing period. And so now 9 months out of the year, before it was about mid-March until mid-October that we were fully staffed at peak, but now 9 months out of the year, so from about mid-March until mid-December, we are able to be funded for peak wildfire season with all of our resources staffed. And so really thankful for that. It meant that we were able to pre-position resources, and also the commitment of the administration on our OES side of the house to pre-position local government fire resources. So a lot of resources were pre-positioned in those areas where those red flags were, and we're able to quickly mobilize to get resources on scene and address that fire. So as of this morning, there's 1,700 personnel and 148 fire engines still assigned to that incident. So that was our 17th incident management team activation of this year. And really, we didn't have our first incident management team activated until mid-June. So really from mid-June until now, we've had 17 CAL FIRE incident management teams activated. So what do we think of this last fire year? Well, we're actually calling it an average fire year. When you look at the 5-year average, acreage-wise, we are slightly below. So we are at 1,049,000 acres as of this morning for this year, where our 5-year average is 1,380,000. So slightly less than the 5-year average on acres. And in terms of fires, individual fires, year to date, we're at 7,934. And the 5-year average is 7,573. So slightly above this year on number of fires, but below on acreage. And so I'm really glad to see that we were able to get many of those fires quickly contained. And I think to the Secretary's point, a lot of that is those resources that we have available. As you know, we were able to get the first C-130 air tanker brought online this year. That's the first of 7. So really happy to have that resource online. And also we had the Park Fire this summer in Butte and Tehama counties. And so of those million acres, over 400,000 was that one incident alone. And so that's the 4th largest wildfire in the state's history. And so that was a huge amount of those acres. So really impressive to think about the other incidents that we were able to keep them relatively small. So what's ahead? What are we're still in this fire year. We still have Santa Ana wind events scheduled, and actually looking at the 4-month forecast for the next 4 months. And we still are looking to be above average, especially in the Southern California, Southern coastal area for the rest of December. And then as we move into January, February, March, we should be more normal in terms of potential for large fire activity. And like I said earlier, it's that lack of rainfall, those Santa Ana wind events that are really creating that above average for the rest of this month. And so Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, they are expecting another wind event down there, and hopefully won't be quite as strong as the one this week, but still leads to that potential. But with all of that, I think it's really important to call out, and what I am so proud of is the work not only on the suppression side, but also on the fuels work and the prevention activities that the department has continued to do throughout this time period. And so our department really has a total force concept. And when there's fires and there's smoke on the air, all 12,000 of our employees are dedicated to those fire suppression efforts to ensure that have resources mobilized to make those fires contained as quickly as possible. Now, on the other side, when those resources aren't committed to fire suppression, all 12,000 of those employees are committed to fuel reduction work, to fire prevention work, to prescribed fire. And so we're constantly ebbing and flowing this workforce, this amazing group of 12,000 employees to do the right work at the right time. And that might be different work at different parts of the state, right? So as there's fires actively burning in Southern California, Chief Morris and his Northern California resources, where, you know, at the time they may not have as many fires going, but they have great conditions for prescribed fire work, for fuels reduction work. And he's working with his unit chiefs to ensure that that work is happening on the landscape as well. And then when a large fire happens in Southern California, he's able to surge those resources down there and mobilize those. And so that's constantly what our department is doing. And so real quick, I'll just throw out some of those numbers, and I'm sure I talked way too long, so I apologize. But and I just want to reemphasize the point, thinking that really our fires started in June of this year, and we've activated 17 incident management teams since then. But at that same time period for the fiscal year, starting July of this year, we've been able to do 368 fuel reduction projects, which is 73% of the year goal. Fuel reduction, we have already treated 36,740 acres, which is 36% of our year's goal. And for prescribed fire, 19,500 acres, which is 39% of the year's goal. And for dispensable space inspections, 151,275 inspections, which is 61% of the year's goal. And we're only halfway through the year. So just wanted to showcase that work that's also happening concurrent with that fire suppression work. So thank you, Secretary.
Thank you so much. And I think it's really helpful, and I know Jennifer agrees, to have these types of updates on the task force. You know, every meeting of the task force, we have our work to do, but this is also a venue to build cohesion and to keep each other updated on how we're doing. So I really appreciate the comprehensiveness of the update. And I'll just share two things. One is, you know, you mentioned the work with Chile, and I'll share that early this morning, I was on a virtual meeting with a partnership across the world called the Mediterranean Climate Action Partnership. And it's something we started with colleagues in Spain, focused on other places around the world that are experiencing the same impacts as we are, like wildfire. So we're doing work with Chile and Australia and the European Mediterranean, believe it or not, parts of Africa that are experiencing wildfire. So we are not alone. And then as it relates to those very specific numbers that you pointed out, for anyone that's joining for the task force for the first time, one big improvement and point of progress over the last year is the so-called treatment tracker, where for the first time, we've now have our arms around the work of several dozen agencies to manage for wildfire risk and actually get on the landscape and improve the health of the landscape. So you can actually go on the task force website, and with a map, you can zoom in and see where all of this work is happening. And so that's something we're really proud of. And frankly, it's going to help us be held accountable to continue to make progress. Lastly, before we get into the crux of the work today, I just want to acknowledge our other executive committee members who are here today. We have Don Hankins, who leads the Indigenous Stewardship Network and is a professor at the California State Chico. Don, thank you so much for being here. We have my colleague and our colleague, Katie Landau, who is representing Cal EPA Secretary Yana Garcia. That is our sister environmental agency. And then we have Abby Edwards, who is here representing Sam Asefa from what we used to know as the Office of Planning and Research, but what we now know as the Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation. So thanks so much, Abby. And then lastly, we have Supervisor Teeter from Butte County. Before we jump in, Doug, I want to just pick on you for any high-level thoughts as you end your time with us.
Oh my God. Wade, I drove down here and I've been thinking, what am I going to say today? And you actually gave me what I'm going to say, so it's kind of off the cuff. Yeah, I'm not dead yet. I got another 4 years. So you gave a politician that just got reelected, doesn't care if he gets recalled, and he's got a mouth. So I wanna say, I was a punk rocker at one time, and so I have a lot of, I guess, uneducated angst inside me, and that carries to this day. But I also was a mechanical engineer working on a lot of cutting edge things, underwater hydrophones with a physicist, particle analyzing with physicists and chemists, and then ultimately into fiber optics, trying to do a kiloport all optical switch. And it was a great career. And then I decided I want to be a politician because I was mad at Jennifer's organization. And here I am. But I think
I'm glad I could inspire you, Doug. There you go.
It wasn't you. It was someone in DC that really inspired me. And anyway, we have scientists in front of us, and I guess, being a mechanical engineer, I don't really consider myself a scientist, but I have a Bachelor of Science degree, and I understand the scientific method. Unfortunately, science is fickle. It takes eons and sometimes millennia to figure out what is really the right thing. We have experts that go through a way more education. They come in front of us, and we hear them, and we're going to hear some today, and we either go, wow, that guy is super smart, love to hear his insights, or that's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life, because we as citizens ultimately judge what we want to put in our heads. And after the campfire, there was a quack that came and shared his, and he's got like a PhD, which is scary, and his ego is probably so big he won't even know I'm talking about him. But that quack said a lot of stuff that just wasn't true. And I think if things were peer reviewed, we'd be in a much better place. And it takes a long time to get that peer review. And if we look at COVID, and there's a lot of us that have strong convictions on one side or the other, but they can't even agree on science on COVID, a little virus. And now we're trying to use science on an immense, scale of Mother Nature. And so it's going to be really exciting to hear what these scientists have to say. I'm really thankful they're here. And if you don't believe them, be open-minded. Don't just follow that one guy that says something, or a gal that says something you want to believe. There's a lot of views. So thank you.
Thank you. No pressure, our science colleagues here today. But I will say, part of what we wanted to do on this task force, and I think we've accomplished it, is have real talk in these meetings. And you've always brought a level of honesty and candor from a local elected official on literally the front lines of these fires. The Park Fire, as Annalee pointed out, impacted your county. So grateful for all that you've done and continue to do over the next 4 years.
I still want to get you and your family on a dirt bike so I can ruin you.
That is on my bucket list before I end this job.
Excellent.